Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Oneness of Black podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Erica Pike, and today I am sitting with the amazing
Rashina
and
Tanya.
I'm sitting with my friends today, and we are about to have a great discussion. We are going to get in, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. And of course, we're expecting another friend to join us soon. But this is a platform, as you know, where we have meaningful discussions that's centered around our cultural experiences, unity, healing opportunities, as well as we look at the diverse Black population and cultures that's out there. And we just want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to be stronger together.
Yes.
So to start off today, we're going to start off with just a conversation around our, y'all's experiences growing up as, as a Black woman. What was that like for you all? Let's start with that discussion today. Who wants to go?
I mean, when you say growing up as a Black young lady, growing up in New York, I loved it. It was such a cultural experience because not only was I amongst, African Americans, but of course I was amongst Caribbeans, I was amongst Africans, Jewish individuals. It was a lot of culture. But New York, it's just like a cultural splash. But we were celebratory of who we are.
Yeah.
So whatever culture, it just added a lot to the mix. I love being Black.
Yes,
Black
ma'am.
24/7, 365 days a year, and I loved it.
Amen.
It was wonderful.
Amen. So, do you were you born somewhere else, or was it in New York? Were you born in the South? Or?
I was born in South Georgia, a small little place called Cairo. It's spelled Cairo, but we pronounce it Cairo, like the surf, Cairo surf.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you moved as a child?
Yes, we moved to New York City. So like when I was a toddler. So all of my, early school years, all of that was in New York City.
We're in New York, the Bronx? Boogie Down?
Boogie Down, yes. But no, it started out in Harlem.
Okay.
Lionel Hampton, 125th Street. Then we moved to the Bronx. And then we moved to Far Rockaway, Queens.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So that was that was an experience. That's when I realized all of the Blackness. Because, it was,
Rashina.
Okay. Me next, where I'm from? Okay. I had a Black mama, y'all forgive me. I'm so immersed into her experience. Okay, so yes, I am from the South, originally born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina. Where I was born is where I was raised. Is that a Will Smith song? I think. Yes, that's where I was from. And I really didn't even really pay attention to being Black. I just paid attention to just growing up, having fun and connecting with people around me. So I really just didn't, I guess, notice it or I knew it, but I didn't have a strong awareness of, oh, my skin is, Black, or that means something, or maybe it meant, or the meaning of it. So, but just growing up there, it was a fun experience. I loved the culture. I loved, playing, making mud pies and doing cheers outside and double dutch and, playing jacks, all the things that children did, we did together.
Wow. So how did those experiences shape your worldview? As far as your experiences, just your cultural experiences. Like, how did that, and either of you can answer that.
I would say for me, I grew up in a very connected community. So we are all caring about each other. We all, looked out for each other. And it made me feel like the world was like that. That the world was, when I met someone, they were going to care about me. They were going to, look out for my best interest. That they were going to just be just good all around. That's what I was around all the time, is people really just having a genuineness about them and the way that they approached their relationships with me.
Okay.
And so I'm glad you said that, Roshina. I think mine was kind of like the opposite, because growing up in the Bronx, where we lived, the block that we lived on, we were probably the only Black people on the block. Well, besides the landlords, and it stood out. I knew I was Black, and because everybody else was something else, and unfortunately, some of the individuals, they let us know it, by calling us racial slurs. And I remember there was a time that my brother and I, we were walking, and literally, thank God for a praying mama, we heard bottles crashing behind us, because they were throwing glass bottles at us, calling us racial slurs. And so my experience is a little bit different from Roshina's, because I didn't know, if I was going to have to run home. I didn't know if I was in danger. So I was like very, very slender. And it was like a time where it was snowing, and I actually had fallen into, like, what do you call that? The little switch thing. My little foot had, and I thought the people were out skinny enough that they could have just pushed me in. And I remember my eyes being super big, but the Caucasian young men, instead of pushing me in, they got me out of that little. So thank you, Jesus. My experience was like, you better kind of like watch your back and all of that.
Wow. That's really interesting. So for you would say that your cultural experiences, as far as shaping your worldview, I know you love the Lord.
I do. Hallelujah.
Yes. I know you love the Lord, and and you're very strong in your faith. So do you think that had something to do with you, really dedicating your life to the Lord, the way you were raised? Was it your parents? Was it just, the cultural experience around you?
Growing up in a single parent household, I come from a big family, but we were all living in different bureaus. So my mom was in the Bronx. My grandma, she was still in Manhattan, then moved to Queens. So we didn't see each other often, but faith was big. My mom, was a praying mom. And so faith and, making sure we operated in respect. So she taught us like those core values. And so I definitely think that's what shaped me. And that's, I ran to the Lord.
Literally.
Early. But no, growing up like that helped me out.
Rashina?
My faith, my mom was the same. I grew up, I think I was born in the church, it wasn't the hospital, but we grew up the same thing, going to church, and my faith being established at a very young age, and so I guess that's part of what I said about why I just felt like I grew up surrounded by people who I would assume had the best interest for me, because most of my connections were with people of faith. I didn't really have a lot of outside connections. I would say I was more sheltered growing up. I didn't experience the world. I remember I couldn't even watch BET growing up. Like, so we were very like choir rehearsal, Bible study, Sunday night church, Sunday morning church, Sunday afternoon church. We were more like that. So my experiences were all from a loving perspective. Not until I got a little older is when I started to experience what it was like to be Black, and what other people thought it meant to be Black.
Okay. So can you talk a little bit about your interactions with other Black people from other Black cultures? Like, what was that experience like for you? I know, Tanya, you mentioned that you were around, a lot of different cultural experiences. Rashina, I don't know what your interactions have been. I know what it's been lately with us, but we could talk about like growing up. Like, did you have the opportunity to interact with other Black cultures, and how were they celebrated? Because I know that there's so many different Black cultures out there. What was that experience like?
So when you say how were they celebrated? you're talking about how did the other
like
cultures
their cultures,
celebrate their culture? Whew, you want to answer that first?
Oh, you go ahead.
Okay. So I think for me, like I said, growing up in New York, my landlords, they were Jamaican. They were from Kingston.
What?
And so
You don't say.
Yeah. And so Miss Powell, it was different, because when we would get home from school, there was a time Miss Powell made us a banana sandwich.
Oh.
We were like, okay.
Oh, wow.
This is a little different.
Mhm.
And so it might have been banana and maybe peanut butter or something.
Oh.
But we learned early on just some of the, food was a little bit different.
Mhm.
But in terms of like the core value, they were very strict.
Mhm.
Like very, very super organized, clean, like but just those cultural values that we noticed. Some of the things were only thing that was really different was the language. You know what I'm saying? But in terms of some of the core values, they definitely, I don't think they had like family reunions like how we had family reunions. But I think the gatherings of the family was super important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's different growing when we moved to Far Rockaway, because it was just like a cultural splash of everybody and everything, so I had to make a whole lot of adjustments with my friends, because the things that, not saying my mom let us do anything, but some of my friends' mom, they were super, super, super strict. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, ma'am.
So for me, I just assumed everybody was from America when growing up. I didn't, I knew I had an awareness of other places geography wise, but none of the people I was around ever, I never noticed like an accent. I never noticed something that would make me think of them of not being from America. So, I didn't have a lot of exposure, I would think, to other cultures, other Black cultures. I really didn't have a lot of exposure other than what I would see on TV, like as far as having close connections with them, individual, intimate connections with people from different places. I just didn't have that growing up.
That's interesting. Look who joined us, y'all. Welcome to the Oneness of Black podcast. So lovely for you to join us today.
Well, thank you.
So Samantha, we started out by talking a little bit about some of our Black cultural experiences that we've had and where we were raised and brought up, and how that impacted our worldview so far. So do you want to just jump in real quick before we move to the next segment?
Sure. I was just having a conversation. My niece was just telling me she's getting my daughter's best friend, and she's saying, people are saying that she's dark skinned and it's bothering her. And I said, she is the little girl that I dreamed of, because when I was growing up, kids would tease me that I was light skinned, so I wanted to paint my skin.
Oh, wow.
And so I wanted to paint my skin cocoa butter. So I had this vision of this little girl, and Gabrielle is exactly the little girl that I had a vision of what I wanted to be.
Wow.
And who I wanted, the girl that I wanted to be. So growing up, I think it's just everywhere, in our culture, something, you're light skin, you're dark skin, you're this skin, you're that skin,
Yeah.
And then you're always trying to fit in. Because my parents, my mom is Indian, my dad is Black. And then not having either one of the sides, sometimes not liking you.
Wow.
And when I was growing up, I had a friend that said, if the country should split, Indians on one side and Black on one side, where would you be? You'll be split in the middle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's, it is as serious as it is.
So is it predominantly like Indian population there as well?
It's a mixture of both.
Oh, first tell the people, please, where you were born, because they're probably wondering what you're talking about.
What am I talking about? So I was born in Guyana, South America. So we even though we represent 6 nationalities, but Indians and black are kind of like
Are the
white and black
predominant?
here.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the racial disparity is very serious there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our friends didn't realize that at first. So when we were talking about, what was it we were talking about? Food.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a big topic.
Yeah, so we were talking about Indian food and that type of stuff, and well, somebody said something.
Me. I said, how you gonna put me on the but I said, that, what did I say?
We're talking about food. No, actually, Tanya started it because
Remember?
Tanya said, we're talking about food. We're talking about, have you ever tried, different types of food? And Tanya was like, well, what about, because I know Tanya, we eat, like African food and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And so Tanya was like, well, how about the Indian food? Have you ever tried that? Tried the Indian food? And I was like, well, yeah, I've tried it and I don't mind it. I'm fine. And then,
and I said, I don't like the smell. I don't like the smell. I said, this very strong. That's what I said. That's what I don't, and that's the truth. I don't like the smell. It is very strong to me. That is not my culture. It's not my experience.
Right.
And so, just that's what I said.
And it's, and it's nothing against one or the other, right? And then so we weren't aware, or we didn't know that our friend over here was going to take
and then she said,
she was like,
well,
wait a minute.
I'm Indian.
Well,
and if I can be honest with you, when I first moved to America, I did not appreciate or like Indian food from India, because our Indian food is very different. It tastes very different. I didn't, and I was like, I did the same thing, to be quite honest. And I was like, what in the world is this? This ain't no Indian food. But over time, actually, it's when I was working at Red Oak Elementary School, they had a very large Indian population. And so I was the parent liaison, and I would introduce culture, and they automatically saw my features and knew that I had Indian in me. And the minute that they found out, they wanted me to know the culture. They were feeding me. I mean, and they are the one that literally introduced me to all of this stuff and exposed me to the Indian food that I got accustomed to really enjoying and loving now.
See, we're stronger together.
Yeah.
We're stronger together.
because the point I was going to make, because even though Roshina said she didn't like it, but I think since we've all been hanging out, she's kind of tried some different things.
I've branched out.
I know I'm supposed to be making a roti. I haven't made it yet, so we'll have to do that the next time.
Have you had roti?
Yes, that's why I like. I
Is
remember
that the
her,
one that we had when she did it at the house?
She did it at her daughter's 16th birthday party, and I tried it. And I was like, "Oh, this is really good."
It just takes a long process, so you have to be in the mood to be like, okay.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, I like roti too. I don't know how to make it, but
As an Indian girl, you had to know how to make that.
Wow.
My grandmother made sure I knew how to make that before I came to America.
Good. So one of the things that I noticed too that that I wanted to, just kind of talk about is just the little differences. Listening to all of you talk is just the little differences that we have within our cultural experiences. And sometimes, and I know I've probably said this before, that when we put our guard up and we don't allow ourselves to get to know someone beyond those differences, that's when we can miss out on having a really good, authentic relationship with someone else.
Yes, that's true. Agreed.
Yeah, because we just never know what that person can bring to our lives.
Right.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And as friends, this is so interesting because all of us have different background experiences, but yet we're all friends.
Yes.
And we all bring something different to the table. Yeah. So what are some of those biases because we talk sometimes about these unconscious biases that's out there, And I know some of you, I know Rashina had some that she was sharing the other day when we were hanging out. And Tanya too. I was like, really? That happened to you? But, sometimes we have these unconscious biases, either that happened to us or we towards other people. And, and I know I'm guilty of that. Sometimes I am guilty of that. But, honestly, but I've come to the place right now, where I am, but I've always been open though.
Yeah.
I've always been open, but I still have those unconscious biases. Sometimes it hits me and I'm like, oh my God, did I really feel that way? Because I didn't know that I would feel that way, until it's right there and you have to, deal with it. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of these unconscious biases.
Colorism.
Yeah.
I think,
Definitely
Sam,
colorism.
you made reference to colorism, right? So you said it happened in Guyana, but here in America,
It's very pronounced. Very
light
pronounced.
skin, dark skin. Well, growing up,
Mhm.
they called y'all red bones.
They did.
Oh, really?
They did.
Yes,
Mhm.
that was the thing, honey.
Oh, red bones.
Red bones.
They did.
And I forgot what they called dark skinned girls. It was just like we were mud. Like, listen,
I never heard that one.
I used to honestly pray, God, please make me light skinned.
Oh.
Make me lighter, Lord. And guess what? The more I prayed, the darker I got. I just left it alone, y'all. Just left
That was
it
a good thing.
alone.
Should leave it alone. Leave it alone. Listen, but it was the opposite for me. Like, so I think the thing was, never knowing the experience of the other side. It's just like, for me, it was like, I got tired of being singled out. It's like, okay, why are you calling me Redbone? That is not my name, number one. It's not my name. And then number two, that is not the thing that I want to be identified by.
Right.
And then two, they did it in a manner to make me feel like I automatically assumed I was better.
Right.
Like, but you don't even know me. Like, you don't even know me, but you automatically assume that I feel like I'm better, or that I have an attitude, or that I'm stuck up. I'm stuck up.
You remember that movie? Spike Lee's.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
It was a movie about colorism.
Oh, okay.
I forgot the name of it.
Spike Lee.
Oh my God!
The only thing I think of Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing. That's all I think of.
I know it was Jasmine Guy was in it, and the Gina from Martin was in it.
Okay.
Oh,
They
I've never
pit
seen
the
it.
light skinned people
Against
against the
the
dark,
dark-skinned
and they made
people.
it into like a choral drama, and they were just singing and like going back and
okay.
forth. Oh yeah.
Oh wow!
But it was just they didn't never take the time
School
to
days.
School days, yes.
days.
We never took the time to get to know each other, and when they
Exactly.
finally did in the movie, they understood. Okay, we're more alike than we are different.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
it's just an assumption and the stereotype.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely an assumption. Sometimes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How about you? Oh, you
No, I
shared
mean
your-
it's the same. It's the same thing. I'm light skinned, growing up in Guyana, and my friends, the Indians, they don't know what to do with me, and the blacks are like, oh, it's the same thing. You think you're better than everyone. It's like no. Like even yesterday, I was doing prison ministry, and that's what we were talking about. People will make the assumption automatically. You think you're better. If you start dressing a certain way, you start doing certain things, they're gonna automatically, oh, you think you're better? No, I'm just making a choice to change me. But I think you just have to learn. For me, I just learned how to be who I am. I'm gonna be authentic.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, one of the things that, and when you said, you're just being you, and you love your famous word, or your word is what?
Authentic.
Yes. She's just being her, and and that's what we do, right?
Right.
We have to just be yourself. And you praying to be darker, the Lord was like, no.
You're gonna be
Yeah, exactly what I
exactly who I called you to be. Never
Mhm.
mind all of that. Yeah.
Mhm. Chocolate princess. That's
Yeah.
what you're gonna be.
Look.
Okay, so let's move into some of the advice, or some of the ways you think we can heal and move forward, because sometimes people will do things to us, and they do it sometimes not intentionally meaning to hurt us, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it happened,
Right.
and we feel a certain way about it.
Yeah.
It affects us mentally in some capacity, and you are the queen of mental health. But what advice or what comment can we make and say, okay, to help us to really move on?
I think really and truly at this stage of my life, I am just learning how to say, accept everyone for who they are, and what value they bring to the table. That's it. Because me trying to change someone else or someone trying to change me, you're trying to put me in your mold and I'm trying to put you in my mold, but God didn't create us that way. Value, because then we are devaluing what God created.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm just learning in this space is that no, love me for me, my good, my bad, and my indifferences. I just come in a package. And just, and even with my daughter, that I just got this news about, I said, who bothered my child? It's just letting her know, no. Let people love you for you. And you're going to eventually find your tribe. You're going to eventually find those people who just, you know what? They're saying, like I have, my friends are beyond you all for 30 something years. I still have my childhood friend. When we go back, we are stupid crazy.
Yes.
But they love me for me and I love them for them.
Yeah.
And like even my dad had said one, he's like, Sam, I ain't never seen somebody had friends that long. You guys just come back like you never, nothing missed, you never missed a beat. Because we've always just valued.
Yes.
And I think when we learn how to it's an inside job. It's not an outside job. It's learning who you are, accepting you for you, and then you can accept someone else. And that's what I've learned how to do that. Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to take a pause, and this is going to be our break for part A. I want you to come back for part B, where we're going to hear from lovely Tanya and the lovely Rashina as they give us their insights in regards to how we can move forward and heal. Plus, we have more information to share about all three lovely ladies in regards to some of the awesome things they're doing in our community. Stay tuned. Don't forget, like, comment, of course, please share and subscribe. I'll see you in a few.